All right, everybody, welcome to episode 12 of the inplayLIVE podcast. Just me and Mr. Pace today, but we're going to shoot the breeze, talk about some current events, and dive into what's going on these days. I've got, as you can see, my championship banner shirt and hat from our trip to Golden State a couple years ago. On a dark, cloudy COVID day. It makes you think of good times like this, so that was awesome. That ring, remember the ring ceremony and the revealing the players? Yeah. That was epic. Anyways, that's just a nice little sentimental note to get our day started. And
that kind of, I mean, it's, the thing is people talk about seasonal, what's it called? Seasonal depression disorder or like whatever. And
vitamin
it's
C or D deficiency.
Yeah, and it's like, I don't focus on those things too much, but when you say something like that and you realize, wow, right now we'd probably be planning a trip for, whether it's the Warriors or some other sports-related trip to somewhere a little bit sunnier than Vancouver, then it kind of hits you in the spot a little bit. But it looks like that shirt's seen better days.
Oh, dude, I wear this. This has been worn with pride. Let's talk a bit about Super Bowl. Super Bowl recap. Obviously, we were happy. Our guy Tom and my guy Gronk specifically. Big win.
Yep, and they became the leading... so the first touchdown... I could be wrong here. The first touchdown either broke the record for most playoff, the combo, right? Yeah. So like passing touchdowns from one quarterback to one, receiver, even though he's a tight end. They definitely have the record at 14. I'm not sure if 13 broke it or tied it, but 14 definitely broke it. So they have the record, and it sounds like they're looking to add to it next year by the sound of things. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, and all the haters are getting in line and coming out of the closet, and that's been interesting to see. And
yeah.
Whatever. I mean,
I think at the end of the day, especially right now with the Aussie Open on, it reminds me of athletes that I hate when people talk to me negatively about Tom Brady. And there's a prominent athlete that I think you're not a huge fan of, but I know I can't stand him. I can't stand, and I don't want to offend anyone here. I love the Serbian sports culture. I love their respect for Novak Djokovic. I have so much admiration for like amazing fan bases following religiously their guy. Yeah. So I love the Serbian culture around Novak Djokovic. That's not what I hate at all. I can't stand him. I can't stand him, and can't even tell you why. But this is what I say to all the Tom Brady haters. I go, I feel sorry for you. What a terrible 21 years you've had. Like, what an absolutely terrible 21 years you have. And I'm watching tennis all the time, mostly as a fan. And I can't stand watching Novak Djokovic. And it's like, if someone were to say to me, I feel it's like, hey, props. I respect the hell out of the guy.
It's like Vince,
he's so good.
What's Vince Vaughn's character in Anchorman? Who's like, God damn it, Ron Burgundy, I hate you, but I also respect you. That's exactly what it is. And I think it's just like, it's so much negativity. And it's just like, okay, I get it, you don't like it, you're frustrated he keeps winning, but you have to respect the accomplishment. I think Joker's a good example. He's a pretty polarizing tennis figure, and has been for years and years, but like, will I watch every Djokovic final I can? Absolutely.
100%.
No questions asked.
And will you be in awe of his talent?
Yeah, he's incredible.
He's incredible. Yeah. He is incredible. But I just want him to lose, right? And then the flip side of that is like, I never want to see Rafa lose on clay. And there's probably tons of people out there that are like, I want to see Rafa lose on clay so badly. The sport needs a change. I'm sick of him winning. Whatever the case may be, right?
So on the note of tennis, it's our first calendar year of tennis at inplayLIVE, really. Yeah. Something that we're starting to get our feet wet on. Yep. What's your outlook on it? What do you like? What are you gonna be looking for? Do you think?
From a betting standpoint, I personally have done well with tennis because the only thing I've ever bet is extremely low volume and people to win a tournament. And just as an example, I think it was probably 3 years ago where I saw like Nadal was like maybe it's 4 or 5 years ago. It's like 2.4 for him to win the French, and I was like
at the beginning.
At the beginning,
like he's got
and I'm just
10
like
people to go through.
That is not contrarian, but I was like I'm gonna bet on that. So like I've picked tournament winners for the majors, and that's pretty much all I've bet on. But one of the awesome things about inplayLIVE is, like you just said, it's our first season, and we're like, what are we doing for tennis? And there's like my eyes are barely even open to it, and there's like 100 people all saying, hey, what are we doing for tennis, right? And then that's where it's like, okay, this is like a trial period, right?
The think tank's in full effect, really, with like experimenting and
Yeah.
watching. And I think tennis is a poster child for pregame betting too, because like you have your odds favorite, huge favorites, guys who pay 2-1 not to win a match but to win a tournament, and then throughout every single match you see all these upsets. So finding and learning where value is going to be could be a massive opportunity.
Yeah, you see all these upsets, and then Joker still wins the Aussie Open, or Joker still wins Wimbledon, or whatever the case may be, right? So it's like one of the big they called it the Big Four. It's really the Big Three now. Murray's done. One of those guys wins, but it's all the upsets inside and in between. Usually one of those big guys winning. Because one of the brilliant things about tennis over the last really 20 years has been the dominance of one or a small group of players, right?
Right.
And then you look at, what you're saying, and that's, a sport where, you have like 8 and 10 and 20-1 underdogs at the start of the match, and how can you find value on something inside of the match on one of those guys, whether it's to upset them on the match, or whether it's, to break or to hold or to, go to deuce, and that, what, I think one of the cool things about sports betting in general is that if you're new to it, but you love sports, you think like, oh, I'm going to pick, Joker to win. But for us, we open up a tennis menu, and it's like, what can't you bet on?
What do we got today kind of thing? Like,
but what can't you bet on?
In tennis, you can literally bet on like first serve, second serve, point, game, set, match.
Yeah, so
everything.
What can't you bet on?
I don't know, like the ball boys, you can't bet on them. That's about it.
Yeah. Yeah, there's no props for the ball boys, but like you can bet on every single and I am always one of the reasons I love football so much is because there's a play and then it stops.
Yeah.
And in tennis, there's a play and then there's a rally, a point, and then it stops.
You have a small window. Yeah.
So there's that window of, okay, what are we doing now? What are we doing next? So it's a really cool sport, and like to be humble approaching it, I have not made money betting live on tennis
yet.
I mean, I don't know, right?
We'll see. Yeah, but
I don't know. There could be some great opportunities. It's definitely something we're pumped about. And then also at the same time, it's one of these things too where I'm fortunate enough, and I think we're fortunate enough that we can turn to the community and go, hey guys, let's start watching for this or for that. And people start to test things, and we start to build data and things like that. And then that's where we go, okay, this is a fool's errand, and okay, this is actually where we could, sort of see some opportunity, right?
Yeah.
But one of the great things about that game in particular, obviously too, is understanding the differences and the nuances from a tournament where it's 40 degrees in Australia every year. That there's heat breaks and all these other things associated with it, and it's on concrete, right? And then obviously switching gears to the clay season, and then to grass for Wimbledon, and then back to concrete for the U.S. Open. So it is one of these things where, if you have a tremendous understanding of the game, but also the conditions, that's where you can really start to capitalize on maybe a generic algorithm applied to one specific player or event that doesn't factor those things in. Right?
Yeah, could be interesting. Either way, it's a heck of a lot of fun to watch the majors, watch those good matchups, and just from a sports fan perspective, I think if you haven't watched tennis, a lot of people are probably like, tennis, like what's so great about tennis? But if you watch two top players go at it in a tennis match, it's some of my favorite sporting moments ever. Watching like Nadal versus Federer, Joker versus Nadal, any of those three playing each other is like incredible sport just to watch
without money on it.
Without any money on it.
Okay, so this is a perfect example. I bet on everything. And would I watch a tennis match now without betting on it? Yes. But I probably would bet on it. But over the last decade, there's only one sport in the world that I have set reminders for, woken up at 3 a.m. for, stayed up till 6 a.m. watching a match that started at 2 a.m. The list goes on and on. There's only one sport I've done that for at all, and I don't even have money on it, and that's tennis, and that is, it is the Aussie Open final, it is the Wimbledon final that, we have both.
Yeah.
I remember Charlie stayed up with us and we put him on the speed bike because he kept falling asleep. We put him on the speed bike in the room so he'd stay awake to watch. I think that was the Aussie Open.
Well, there was one year, I was thinking about this earlier today, there was one year where I switched my sleep calendar so that I could watch all the Aussie Open games. I was working the restaurant nights, so I would wake up at like 1 p.m., kind of go about my morning.
Yeah.
Watch some tennis, go to work, watch some more tennis, go to sleep, come back, and I was nocturnal for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
But
no, I know that there's a couple members in our group that are doing that right now because they're betting on it, and they are doing well.
Yeah.
So they're testing some stuff. They're betting small, but that they're doing it from a money making standpoint.
Yeah.
Right? And that's kind of, we do have European members. That's what they have to do
for football.
For hockey, for football, for basketball, all the things that we're successfully making money off of. If they want to be a part of that, they got to set their alarms or stay up or whatever, right? So,
hey, power to them.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
What else we got on the docket? We got a bit of hockey action. I think that one thing, hockey's in full swing. They've been hit pretty hard by COVID stuff of the last week or so.
Yeah.
But I think that if anything, and you brought this up in your weekly chat too, just a reminder that like hockey is not the same as football when it comes to money management and bankroll management. Just like reminding yourself that we're at a time of year where you have to reshift your focus.
Yeah, I think that's probably a good thing to touch on.
Yeah, and just like we're moving into different sports. Different sports have different approaches, and it's like that's something that you have to really, no matter what sports you bet on pregame or in-game, you should take that mentality of, hey, we're into a new situation, right? And a good reminder for people, because if you are going as high volume, high impact as you were during football season into hockey, you can get yourself into a bit of trouble sometimes, right? And so just being diligent and kind of like your public service announcement. Remember,
Yeah. So I think whether you're a member of inplayLIVE or not, Ritzker brings up a really good point, because for me personally, right, and I think everyone's different. I've said this a lot. There's a lot of different ways to make money sports betting. Some people specifically focus on arbitrage and sure betting. If you haven't checked out our podcast on that, we did a whole episode on arbitrage betting. You can check it out. I think it would be like episode 4 or 5 or something like that. But it's in the title. Very easy to search up. There's a lot of different ways to make money. And for me, I make the most money betting on American football. So that's NCAA football and the NFL. But if you actually look at my quantity of wagers, the only reason I make the most is because the volume is unprecedented, right? There are some Saturdays where I've made 1,000 wagers, and every single Saturday-Sunday combo, it's almost a guarantee I've passed over 1,000 wagers. Like, we are taking a lot of wagers, and it's extremely high volume. Then that ends, right? And we just had that, the climax to the season, Super Bowl, where from an inplayLIVE money making standpoint, think contrarian and win. Chiefs are the favorite. We did very well in that game. Betting against the Chiefs with high volume plays, but that even still is just one game. There isn't the 6 or 8 games on at the same time, right? And then we transition to hockey and hoops, and I would say for the most part, hoops is low volume to succeed. That's my opinion, right? And it depends on what you're doing, right? Yeah. But with what I do with hoops, it's low volume, extreme selectivity or discipline to succeed. And then with hockey, it's a specific set of strategies, and some nights you get 1, some nights you get 4, but you're not talking about hundreds, right? So we might get the volume for hockey that we get in one day of football in a month, right? So from a quantity standpoint, I don't make as much money, but on a per wager basis, I definitely do make as much money. It's just, again, we're not exposed to those high levels of volume. So to speak to your point, ultimately what I'm trying to get across to everyone, this has nothing to do with just inplayLIVE members, but everyone that's out there, when you make that transition out of football, and for a lot of our members where you've taken a small amount of money, you've turned it into quite a bit amount of money. We have a lot of people that have broken into the 5-figure club, right, which is $10,000. Their bankroll's broken over $10,000 from an initial bankroll of just hundreds. And now all of a sudden you take that same sort of high volume approach to a new game, and you're like, shit, look at my money going the wrong way, right? And going the wrong way fast because it's unproven strategies, this, that, and the other. So it's just, like you said, it's hitting the reset button. It's going, hey, you know what? Let's start over. New season, new sport, new bankroll. Whether that means cashing out for you or not depends on your own personal discipline, your own personal situation.
Yeah.
But going, you know what? Hey, I started last season in football with $500. Let's do the same thing for hockey. Maybe it's $1,000 now.
Yeah.
But let's do the same thing for hockey. Let's be extremely smart, extremely disciplined, and reset that unit size. We got people that started betting out $5, and their unit size now is $500.
Fluff on your left cheek there. There you go.
Is it bothering you? Your unit size is now $500, right?
Come off your jacket.
And it's like when you start swinging $500 on a new sport, you're just exposing yourself to a hell of a lot of risk. So that's
And I think too, when you come down from that volume high of football season, and not to mention football season, but football with hockey and basketball going on, and World Junior, like there's 8 things that go. Like if you're looking to churn out and have a high velocity of wagers. Like, be careful looking at other markets for hockey and basketball. European, South American, whatever, other continents, Asian. There are opportunities there, but, like, the focus of the main strategies that we've employed have been based on North American sport. So, like, just be careful and do your research if you're going to jump into and don't assume all things are equal. Because the game is played different ways in different countries, in different leagues. The competition level is different. Like, so much can change, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's another thing to keep in mind is, like, if you're searching to create that volume, make sure that you're not just, like, blanket applying strategies either, right?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Do that with some level of discipline and kind of, like, I don't know, put some research and build some statistics to support that it works.
Yeah.
Or that there's parity, right?
Yeah, and I think to speak to that a little bit more too, one of the really cool things that has happened, because this is our second hockey season at inplayLIVE. We started for the COVID restart last year. So we didn't have the full season last year, but it's our second season. And we had some great strategies, really did well, especially in the playoffs for hockey last year. And here we are now in our next season. What I didn't ever fathom was the group making me better at the strategies that I created for the masterclass.
Yeah.
And, we've got guys that are so good with software engineering and AI and spreadsheets and data that, we've got strike prices for virtually everything that we're looking at based on the scenario that they're in. So what team are they playing? What opportunities are we looking at specifically? And what are our strike prices to ensure that whether we win or lose, we made a smart decision? And of course, also that gives you the red light. The no, don't bet this one.
Yeah.
Which is nice to have because we didn't have that before. We based it off of visuals that were happening in the game, which are still very important, but now with the data associated with the visuals makes us hopefully that much more effective, right?
Yeah. So what other things we got coming around the corner? We're halfway through February. March Madness is around the corner.
Yeah.
We're going to do a massive bracket for that.
Okay, so let's touch on the Super Bowl pool.
Oh, yeah.
That was really cool. So, if you follow us on social media, if you don't, please check us out on Instagram. But we launched a public Super Bowl props pool, and the motive for that really was me kind of being a little depressed, going, I'm not going to have a huge Super Bowl party this year, and usually we fill out a prop sheet, right? And I took that mentality and went, wait a minute, we have a multi-hundred community of sports bettors. Let's make it online, right? And by the end of it, entries were coming in of people that we didn't know at all that weren't part of inplayLIVE, and we in just 28 hours, we got 106 or something entrants. So was a huge success. But so going forward, we're definitely going to do a March Madness bracket that will be released to the public so that we more and more become a hub for the world of sports entertainment. Right?
Totally.
Pools, fantasy, all that kind of stuff.
I think that'll be fun. March Madness also brings some unique betting opportunities. There's so many underdogs that win in March Madness. crazy stuff happens in games. Like,
yeah.
That's
Yeah.
going to be pretty fun to watch.
Yeah.
What else we have coming up in February? That's pretty much it for February, March. And then we're looking at, I think, the next big thing would be the Masters for me.
Yeah.
In April.
Well, training camp, baseball players are reporting to training camp this next coming week. So we're definitely going to do an episode on baseball. But actually, shout out to Brian. I don't know if he watches our podcast, but he sent me an article today, and it's about, I don't know how to properly say this, the decorking of baseballs.
Yeah, I read about that. Well, because there was a huge, it was kind of an undertone to the media last year about how the balls were all juiced.
Yep.
Which resulted in a huge record. Like, they smashed the record for home runs last year. Smashed it. And all the pitchers, like, you just even see them on the mound throwing balls, and then they watch the ball go over, like they just
when
knew.
they thought it was a pop fly.
Yeah, everyone just
like,
knew that, like, something was up. And then it was David Price who came out and said, like, didn't we kind of, like, so you're admitting it? When they had denied, and now they've kind of or whatever you want, made them not fly as far, whatever scientific fucking word you want to use for that.
Yeah.
But so that'll be interesting. We'll be back to some old school baseball.
Yeah. So the article that I read, and I mean this is a total guess, but they said that it would convert to 5% less home runs across the league for the year. And then of course our job at inplayLIVE is how does that affect betting? What does the public think? What does the public think when they hear that? They're like, oh my God, we got to bet the under.
Yeah, they're never going to score again.
Yeah, whereas we're like, okay, if that's what you're all thinking, we don't want to say you're wrong. That's not what we do. I never want to be like, no, this team's going to win or that team's going to win. That stuff drives me nuts. It's not, okay, you're not wrong, but if all of you are thinking that way, how can I make money by not thinking that way?
So what are the players going to do? They're going to cork their bat. They're going to juice up.
Yeah. But yeah, baseball, I mean, baseball's around the corner. And I think, too, also, we had some really great baseball strategies last year in the playoffs. We don't have a master class for baseball, but we will have one for the start of this season.
Cool.
And just, I think just on that note, knowing that, we've got the community at our back to attack the sport, and we don't know what those changes are going to be. It's just an ongoing theme. What were the changes in baseball last year, right? More runs, putting runners on second base to start the overtime. Double headers that are 7 innings came back last year. That's a thing from years ago.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Which, I mean, I gave them props. Honestly, just the whole season went off and they figured it out. And not only did they have to deal with COVID, they dealt with 3 or 4 days where sports weren't played at all because of people protesting. Right. So the MLB got thrown a real wrench. Right. They had the manager of the Florida Marlins. No, 4 of his teammates tested positive for COVID. He knew. And he's like,
Didn't he
whoa.
just run him out
there?
He
ran him out there.
Yeah, get out.
So I can't remember who they play, the Phillies.
Yeah.
It was like 2 weeks of those 2 teams not playing their regular schedule. And in the meeting after, the manager, I don't even know his name, he said, what were we just not going to play? They're all like, yes. But I was like, oh my God, baseball's a disaster. They're the first ones doing it not in a bubble because NHL and NBA were both in bubbles, and then
NFL hadn't started
yet.
Right?
And then you hear that and you're like, oh my God, the MLB they are fucked, like straight up. And I thought they did a tremendous job of bouncing back from that moment to getting the whole season in, and some of the rings without fans and stuff have kind of felt maybe a little cheapened or a little off.
Yeah.
I didn't feel that way with MLB at all this year.
Yeah. No, that was a good World Series.
Yeah. So I mean, it's just nice to have options because this is the time last year we're 1 month away from when they shut everything
down. They cut us off and we were wandering aimlessly.
We're throwing dice in the back alleys of the streets to keep our pulse.
Yeah, heads or tails on crosswalks.
Yeah.
All right, dude.
Well, I think that's a good place to leave it, probably.
Yeah, next week we're going to get a little bit deeper into some hockey with our guy Ted, inplayLIVE member, so that'll be fun, and we'll just dive even further into what we kind of touched on today and talk some strategies and some fun stuff that's going on there.
Yep.
And then, we'll look forward to what's around the corner. But, as always, check us out. Instagram, Facebook, website, inplayLIVE. Join us today in the URL below there. Subscribe and click. You can get 40% off with the promo code Ritzker Podcast there. We've got live stream. Are you going live tonight?
Going live tonight.
Live stream tonight for you. You can make your first hockey wager, but read the teachable course first. All right, dude.
Cheers, man. Till next week.